The Lord be with you. This is a reading of the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus took Peter, John, and James and went up onto a mountain to pray. While he was praying, his face changed in appearance. His clothes became dazzlingly white. Suddenly, two men were talking with him, Moses and Elijah. They appeared in glory and spoke of his passage, which he was about to fulfill in Jerusalem. Peter and those with him had fallen into a deep sleep, but awakening, they saw Jesus' glory, and likewise Moses and Elijah, who were standing with him. When these were leaving, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, how good it is for us to be here. Let us set up 3 booths, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." While Peter was speaking, a cloud came and overshadowed them. The disciples grew fearful as the others entered the cloud. And then from the cloud came a voice which said, "This is my son. This is my chosen one. Listen to him." And when the voice fell silent, Jesus was there alone. The disciples kept quiet, telling nothing of what they had seen at that time to anyone. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Thank God for bottles. And Cheerios and whatever else. Whatever works. Close your eyes and stay awake. Focus on your breathing so it becomes deeper and more rhythmic and brings in the energy of this sacred space and exhales negative stuff. And go back to your storehouse of memory and bring forth a memory when you had an experience of paying something or someone your undivided attention. Whoever or whatever that was, they had your undivided, complete attention. You may open your eyes, or you may keep them closed, because you may want to choose to stay in that space with that memory, as it indeed is sacred to you. On the second Sunday of Lent of every year, we hear an account of the transfiguration of Jesus. It's recorded in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. This year we have Luke's account. All three accounts are remarkably the same. It's of any of the instances in Jesus' life that are recorded in all three Gospels. This one stays right there almost exactly, almost word for word in the account, which certainly attests to it being a very fundamental, integral part of the tradition, of the gospel tradition. In all three accounts, Peter, James, and John are in all three. Jesus is transfigured visually in all three. Jesus is accompanied by Moses and Elijah, who were conversing with him about what was going to happen in Jerusalem, which was his passion, his death, and his resurrection. And the accounts of the transfiguration in all three Gospels occurs after the first prophecy of the Passion and before the second and the third. There were three prophecies of the Passion in all three Gospels. And in all three accounts, there is this cloud, and which is an Old Testament visual of God. You know, when there comes a cloud and it envelops people, that's like God enveloping people. And of course, you can't see through a cloud. Okay, so the cloud literally blocks your physical sight. This cloud had a voice that came from it. So your ears were perked up, Peter, James, and John, speaking directly to them. Moses and Elijah only spoke to Jesus, but God spoke to Peter, James, and John. And God basically said three things to them. Number one, Jesus is my son. Okay, God did not say that about anybody else. And Jesus is my chosen one, which would be most likely another name for Messiah, if you would translate that into Peter, James, and John's world. So first of all, this is my son, the Son of God. This is my chosen one, the Messiah. And then a single commandment. A single commandment. Listen to him. Listen to him. Now, when you put the Transfiguration in the context of all three of those Gospels with the prophecies of the Passion, death, and resurrection, you will find that at the first prophecy of the Passion, death, and resurrection, the apostles to whom that prophecy was given did not listen, because how they behaved right afterwards would indicate they had not listened. Do you find that to be true when somebody doesn't listen? Maybe even including yourself. We're getting real quiet here. Your behavior right after somebody tells you something tells them whether you listened or not. Amen? Okay. How many here have ever been told you didn't listen to me? How many here have ever been told by somebody in the room, you did not listen to me? How many here have ever been told by somebody in the room, you did not listen to me, and they were right? So we're all in the same boat. By their behavior, it was clear that the apostles had a real hard time hearing what Jesus had to say when he was talking about his passion, death, and resurrection. After the Transfiguration, they still had a hard time. Their behavior had not changed, even after being told twice. And after the third prophecy of the Passion, Death, and Resurrection, their behavior still didn't change. Did not change. And in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, none of them were at the foot of the cross. Okay. So, the commandment, listen to Jesus, they weren't able to fulfill that at that time. Which may or may not give you consolation. It does for me with the things I find hardest to hear and to follow. Okay? Some things it takes me years to get. Amen? Come on now. Some things it takes me years to get. Amen? That's why we have Lent every year. Amen? Because there's still some things we haven't gotten yet. Amen? Amen. You're pretty quiet. Okay. But this is heavy stuff. This is really heavy stuff. Back to your memory. When something or someone had your undivided attention. That something or someone, that may not have been a positive experience for you at all. That may have been a horrific experience. You know, that the things that grab, that literally demand our undivided attention, they usually are at one extreme or the other. Either something that for us is very, very tragic, or for us is very, very wonderful, which is the reason why we're paying attention, because of the tragic or the wonderful. At least when I've done this exercise now from yesterday to today almost 24 times, and every memory that comes forth it's either really tragic or it's really wonderful, and they keep coming, which it leads me to suggest that you not only do this exercise today at this Mass, you take that with you for the whole week. And just see what surfaces. Don't control it. Don't change it. Don't alter your memories at all, or filter them or censor them. Just let them be. Just let them be, and see what they have to say to you about you. You know, part of Lent is becoming more aware about me, about where I've been, who I've been, and where I am now. Because of that. Amen? Because of that. And what these demonstrate is that even if we're not the most attentive person, even if we're not the best listener in the world, even if we have people in our lives that are close to us or who have to work at getting our attention or keeping our attention, we still have these moments when our undivided attention was gotten. We have that capacity. So what God is commanding us is not beyond our capacity at all. It wasn't beyond the capacity of the apostles. It's at that time they didn't get there. Later they did. They got there later. What was stopping them? Well, at least as I read the Gospels, what was stopping them is maybe what commonly stops us. You know, and that's our own avoidance and our own denial. It comes from within. The blockage of the listening is not external as much as it is internal. It can be both. I'm not saying it's always our fault. I'm just saying that there are some internal blockages that we can carry around for certain things or certain people. You know, there are those. And so the meditation, in a way, is a way of acknowledging both the capacity to bring our undivided attention to something or someone that needs/deserves that, like God, like Jesus. It also is a meditation that reveals some blockages to that. Is what would be a blockage to listening to Jesus, to listening more than we are? Well, maybe it's like the apostles, because Jesus has some things to say to us that maybe we don't want to hear. Okay, let me repeat that. Jesus has some things to say to us that maybe we don't want to hear. You know, we're kind of avoiding that part of the gospel. That part of my relationship with Jesus is I don't feel ready yet. And maybe I'm not. But does that stop Jesus from saying those things? It didn't stop Jesus from prophesying his passion, death, and resurrection to his 12, even when they didn't listen 3 times. It also didn't mean he didn't go out and get 12 different guys. Did you notice that in the Gospels? He stuck with the same ones, even though they weren't doing what God told them to do yet. You know, God got them there eventually, which should give us some hope that God will do the same to us. Okay. But it helps a lot if we cooperate. Amen? It helps a lot if we're alert enough this morning to say, okay, these are some times when I really did pay attention. These are some times when I broke through my own avoidance and my own denial. We all have those times. We probably need to attend to them. We have that capacity. You know, if we did it then we should be able to do it again. Okay. So I guess the whole point of my sermon this morning to me, and if it's worth it to you, is that this isn't my first Lent. Like, this isn't my first rodeo. You know, I have some experience here, and I need to tap into that. I need to tap into not just what I gave up last year, the year before, whatever, but how has God led me on this journey? How has God showed me utmost patience and utmost perseverance? And there's plenty evidence in my life, I'm sure in yours, that God has been doing that for quite some time and will continue to do that as we cooperate.